So Russia continues its offensive in Ukraine's east, making a slow progress and targeting country's second biggest city, that's Kharkiv. But can recent arms deliveries to the war-torn country reverse this trend?
That's right, and today U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said Russian forces will try to make further advances in the weeks ahead and try to carve out a buffer zone along the Ukrainian border. Now, to discuss the current situation in Ukraine, we are joined by Geopolitical Risk Advisor Jozef Hrabina. Hello, Jozef. Thank you very much for joining us. So the news that we are hearing from Ukraine about Ukraine are not that positive, unfortunately. What is happening there right now? How dire is the situation on the front lines?
Well, we could say that Ukraine is advancing on all fronts. I'm sorry, Russia is advancing on all fronts, unfortunately. What is the most recent development is the opening of the new front, which is north of Kharkiv region through Vovchansk, most specifically. We see that Russia is not using as many soldiers as it would usually take for a full-scale major offensive. So it more looks like Russia is trying to drag Ukraine's reserves away from Donbas region, or especially from Donetsk direction, where it's and other directions, for instance,
But
from the battle.
Let me interrupt you for a second. They're not using as many soldiers because they don't have to, because they're gaining, even though they're not using as many soldiers.
No, I don't think this is the case. I think most of their forces are dragged to the combat along the front lines or the previous front lines. This situation really looks like there are no large reserves amassed on the other side of the border, so we don't really see a development or preparations for a large-scale offensive right now. Of course, it takes several weeks to gather such troops, and we would probably know that from satellite imagery. But for now, we can say that this offensive is rather limited in use of manpower. But as your colleague correctly pointed out, the use of aerial missiles and bombs and artillery is very, very intensive in these areas, so it really looks like a smoke screen for much smaller operation.
Right, Jozef, many people were wondering about the new arms being delivered to Ukraine. Can they stall the Russian progress, and is it already visible on the battlefield? Because we know that Ukrainians were simply running out of ammunition, right?
I think the frequency of use of long-range missiles have increased over the past few weeks, but what is the most important part, that's an air defense, and we still don't see any developments, especially in the frontline areas, that would indicate new air defense systems being employed there. The problem with all these recent developments in use of CAP and FAP bombs is that Russia has been able to operate its air force much more freely. For instance, in the past few weeks or past few months, you could observe Russian air force operating above the front line, which was unthinkable for the first 2 years of the war, for most of the first 2 years of the war. So this is a worrying trend. And I hope this is something that is vastly addressed by the current package of the U.S. aid, because I believe, and this is also what Ukrainians are saying when I'm traveling there. We don't need much. We need air defense and artillery grenades. These are the most important pieces of ammunition or equipment we really lack, and we really need to fight Russians.
Now, Russia launched a surprise assault on Kharkiv on May 10th. Now, that resulted in the biggest territorial gains in a year and a half for Russia. Now, in reality, do you think they can be stopped? I mean, does Ukraine have enough to stop them?
Well, it's hard. It's more of a guessing game right now.
Well,
at
it
this
is,
moment.
of course.
Yeah, we don't really know how much reserves Ukraine has at this point. We know that they redeployed some of their reserves. Large chunks of Ukrainian army are still bound on the northern border with Belarus, because you never know what can happen from that side. So this is also a very problematic dynamic, and the mobilization law hasn't kicked in yet. You need some time to train new recruits. So this is all a very unfortunate situation and very bad timing. Also including the help, even though I think it's great that some of the help the help was approved, but these delays definitely are causing difficulties on the battlefield right now. What I want to say is that there is also a question of Ukrainian defense and fortifications. They are a little bit away from Vovchansk. Even though Ukraine is actively defending Vovchansk, the lines of fortifications are a little bit further away from the city. So I think it didn't look that Ukrainians were expecting Russians to launch an offensive in this direction, but they were preparing more closer to Kharkiv.
Right. Jozef, so the fog of war in Ukraine is very thick, and as you said, we will just have to keep on guessing. Less than guess, as Russians are now attacking in the Kharkiv and Donetsk regions, mostly. Could we guess their plans for this year's offensive?
Yes. Well. I believe the main direction remains Donbas. It's not only my belief, but many people who are observing Ukraine and who are talking to Ukrainians more frequently, they all are expecting this direction to be the most problematic in the coming months. But also, Ukraine has been expecting attack from Kursk and Belgorod regions, which are neighboring regions with Kharkiv, and Sumy regions on the Ukrainian side. They were expecting it for past several months, so they were preparing for that scenario. This is very limited scenario that is happening on the ground right now. So it can be said that there could be a potentially much bigger offensive later in summer 2024, led either in the Kharkiv direction or Sumy direction, to maybe reinforce the ongoing operations in Kharkiv, or even to drag Ukrainian forces away from the front lines and finish the operations in Donbas, potentially in Zaporizhia as well.
Yeah, this is war, and I guess both the Ukrainians and Russians know that situation can change really very quickly. Jozef Hrabina, Geopolitical Risk Advisor, was our guest tonight. Thank you very much.
Jozef,
thank you for having me.